Okay, let's take a closer look together here at our Unit 1 essay exam assignment sheet. You'll notice, first of all, that we're being asked to submit your paper through the Turnitin feature within Canvas. This is to check for plagiarism, and you'll be able to view the plagiarism report of your paper on the due date. So this is to really make sure that we're all on a fair playing ground, and it helps you to make sure that you're not lifting sentences or material in a incorrect format. And we wouldn't want to be in a situation where some of us are working very hard to write a paper and then other folks are buying a paper. So this keeps that all on the same page. And then just because of the similarities of English language, um, there are certain phrases that could show up in certain places, and that's fine. The Turnitin might register that upwards of a 10% similarity score is being okay. So the essay is to be typed and double spaced with size 12 Times New Roman font, 1-inch margins, and at least 1,200 words. This is about 5 pages, so that's not too long. It's a nice length to be able to fit in the amount of information and analysis needed. You can go over that, certainly. And a big tip here is to use the grading criteria, which we'll get to down below, very similar to the outlines grading criteria, for both in the preparation of your essay stage and also in reviewing it. And then very important here, it's required to refer to graphics, which could be maps or images, especially from the textbook, whether that be online or the paper version. You don't have to copy and paste into the essay. Just write in parentheses, see figure 3.8, for instance. This is a great way of showing that you've not only engaged with the reading, but that you're able to illustrate the point that you make by including a map or a graph or a image. And so this is really important, and my encouragement would be to try to include at least 2 of these for each of your main points. It adds a very rich element to the papers when you can be illustrating, adding more color, so to speak, to your paper. So practice learn resourcefulness. I have here avoid procrastination. It's very important to keep up the steady work on these and not let them delay until the last minute. Help-seeking behaviors, asking myself or your fellow students questions. Also the resources in the library or fellow students, instructor tutoring and study groups. These are all tips for the course in general. I took this from our syllabus. And importantly here, embrace realistic goals and priorities. So you know what amount of time you have left, and so work accordingly. And here I have a reminder to include a clear and strong thesis in your short introduction, and you can see the link above for more tips on writing a clear and strong thesis, as well as 10 key terms from the chapters. So I believe in the online version those are in a blue font, and in the paper text version those are bolded in black. And we've taken a closer look at a lot of those within the lectures, the mini lectures. They came up in the class discussions, dialogues as well. But we want to integrate those into our essays. Supportive statistics are very helpful as well. The book highlights a lot of those, and I've referred to some of them in the mini lectures. And then very important here, specific place examples. So this is a great way of demonstrating that you're understanding what you've learned and that you're processing it, and even creating patterns, recognizing and defining patterns that you're seeing as well. So instead of just listing a specific country, a city and state, or a city of a province, or if if the point you're making, such as the California Central Valley, if you're if it's a sub-region within one of the regions we've looked at, then that's acceptable. But my encouragement is to be as specific as possible. I think all of us would be able to pick out a particular city within the California Central Valley, for instance, if it's something a little more particular, as in a uh, city in Ukraine, for instance, then this is where it really pays to go back and do research, whether that be within the textbook or different articles on the internet, or within some of the dialogues that we've had as well, and examples that I've provided to other students. Then we have our questions, which we're pretty familiar with by now, and you should have picked just one to move on with for the essay after your good outlines last week. As well, here we have the grading criteria, what it's based equally upon. So content, the prompt is fully answered. So this is a really important one to remember, as a lot of times students will skip certain parts of the prompt. You want to make sure you respond to each aspect of it. It doesn't have to be in sequential order, as in the order that the prompt is structured, but each part of those prompts are there for a reason, and we want to make sure that we respond to all of it. And demonstrating critical thinking, explaining the assumptions and questions that you're using in your analysis, and the avoidance of generalizations. So this is a really important one, because in today's day and age, it's very easy and very common to hear generalizations being made. Oh, the South is more racist than the North, for instance. But we really want to be good geographers and be as specific as possible. In the case of post-Soviet control over Eastern Europe, and throughout the Cold War, drilling down into that and providing a specific example, looking at the oppressive policies within Ukraine, for instance, naming the policy that you're talking about, whether that be military industrial control or the establishment of industrialization of more natural gas pipelines. And so avoiding them generalizations that are not supported by evidence. So providing evidence, so in this case a good citation from the text or one of the mini lectures, or if you've done some research from different sources, including that. So organization here, a standard essay format, which you've already developed in your essays, and keeping in mind a focused thesis statement, coherent progression, and also an insightful conclusion. So the specific examples that support your conclusions within evidence, make sure to use all of the required readings and class dialogue. So going back through the class dialogues that we've had to refresh yourself on some of the points that have been made by myself and other students, including your own self. And citations and content. So all required readings and course dialogue are used and cited properly, that is, as well. So you'll see the other link above has APA citation guidelines. If you want to stick with the Chicago manual style, that's fine as well. Imagine you're using APA in your other social science courses, so you can feel free to use that, with sufficient inclusion of your own interpretation and analysis. So this is important because we're not only looking for a regurgitation of all the information that we've learned so far, but how you have synthesized your own interpretation analysis into that. It's very important to explain that, and to have that's a key part of these essays. You could think roughly about 1/3 of the essay should be about your own interpretation and analysis. Feel free to use I statements and discuss things how they are in your opinion, and framing that opinion with a within a academic critique style that shows that you've considered various viewpoints and how you're substantiating your perspectives that you're putting forward. And lastly, the conclusions. Throughout the paper, conclusions that you make, whether it be in your analysis, not just the conclusion of the final conclusion of the paper, but they're drawn and stated, and that you are answering the implications in the question meaning the essay prompt. Okay, so I look forward to your questions about this and reading your essays later on. Thanks.